going to do a little video series on how do we know what we know about nutrition science and exercise and sports science. Why do we tend to go from these extremes, and how do you see through gimmicks? I'm going to give you some examples of some of these things, but how do we know these things? So I want to just do a few videos because this is on my heart in this era of feelings being and emotions being the most important thing. I'm going to speak from my heart on this one. Hope you don't mind. By the way, Dr. Miller here. Remember, Dr. Miller, PhD, not MD. I can't actually save your life, and this indirect use of the barbell is the consideration. So here we go. This first video is on marketing and learning how to see through some of the stuff. You have to practicing some critical thinking skills. And to be completely fair, I've fallen for some of the stuff too. So, just looking at something on the surface and not really thinking about it critically, or looking at a food label critically, or thinking about opportunity costs. In other words, if I eat this, what do I not get? Right. That's a lot of times missed out in like the financial world. That makes sense. So if I invest my money over here and I could make more money over there, there was an opportunity cost for taking that money and putting it over here. Right. I've lost that opportunity to make money doing something over there, or whatever it might be. The same thing with nutrition. If I spend a year following some gimmicky diet, I could spend a year actually just having a balanced diet. In other words, balance meaning adequate amount of protein, carbs, and fat, instead of opting for one macronutrient to rule over the others. Like there's some ultimate combination for one macro to be better than the others, right? There's an opportunity cost in that. I have to weigh that. Well, if I just follow this for a year, I might lose 5 pounds, but man, I feel good. I still get to eat somewhat normal, enjoy my weekends, have a beer every once in a while, go to the barbecue, enjoy my daughter's birthday, all these different things that are real, part of life. Or I can just eat really restricted and be miserable following this other diet. And yeah, I'll lose 10 pounds, but I'll probably rebound it in another 6 weeks afterwards, right? So, how do we read this? So let me give you some examples from the nutrition world that'll help, and just sifting through some of this stuff. Okay. When you go to this is episode 1 of this little mini series, and this is called Nutrition Lies, or Nutrition Marketing, like learning how to read through some of the stuff. So back in the day, there was snake oil salesmen. Back in the day, like 1800s, I'm going to use that as a very broad brush. I realize that was a whole, 100 years from 1800 to 1900. So the 19th century, we'll just make a really big brush here. These, and this has been around for a long time, not just in the 1800s, but in my mind, this is the classic example of these gentlemen going from town to town with their wagons full of snake oil, and they would sell people this snake oil with the promise of the snake oil curing everything and anything. Let's start with this first piece of advice. When you're starting to evaluate a nutritional direction or product, is if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Now, are there exceptions to that? Sure. But I'm talking about a starting position. When you hear a new gimmick, like, hey, this supplement does this, or this diet plan will do this. If somebody said, hey, and I'm sure there's many of these, I know there is, hey, this will grow hair on your head if you eat, eggplants. Well, I don't know if that exists, but I'm going to listen, right? But if it sounds too good to be true, it likely is. Okay, let me give you the second one here. Healthy living and body composition changes through nutrition take time. It takes time. There was a great commercial. It was about finances, if I remember right. And it had like a blueberry in a bowl, and it said, basically it was trying to drive home this point, is that by eating one blueberry a day, it probably isn't going to make that big of a difference. Or even a pile of blueberries once every 25 days isn't going to make that big of a difference on your health. What makes a difference is having a serving size every day, right? That, the one blueberry might make a little difference, but it's just this cumulated effect of having a minimal dose that does something over time. And that can be a negative thing too. So that's why, this whole idea of never eat cheeseburgers. Well, if you like cheeseburgers, you better have one once in a while, because eventually you're going to break. I mean, that's just a reality. So have a cheeseburger. Now, if you eat cheeseburgers every day, then you're going to have that negative dose every day. If you have a cheeseburger once or twice a week and it's reasonable, right? You don't eat all the cheeseburgers that day, then you're probably going to have minimal health impact from something like that, especially if the rest of your diet is healthy. Okay. So, this idea that sustained dose matters, right? That just consuming something or changing something for a short period of time, right, is going to make that big of a difference is fallacious, right? And even if it does make a difference, even if you do it for 8 weeks, if you haven't changed your behavior and you hate what you're doing, you're not going to likely maintain it. Let me give you another example here, something else to think about. Make sure you read figures carefully. Okay, figures can be manipulated. Graphics can be manipulated. I saw this more in the training world one time, but this is a problem even in academic type of presentations. If you go to a poster presentation and you look at the poster and you see these big bars, you're like, wow, look at that bar. So if I eat granola, then my hair grows back. If the people that didn't eat granola, their hair didn't grow back. Okay, and so you look at these bars and you're like, wow, that's one big bar and that's a little bar. But if you look at the y-intercept, which the bars are plotted on, you might find that the actual, let's say they were counting hairs, and the increment was 1 hair. And so that big bar was distorted. It looked like that was this massive hair growth from eating granola. I don't know if granola causes hair growth. I'm sure somebody can prove that, right? That's what nutrition science is all about. But understanding the magnitude of the change. So if you look through like marketing materials many times, you'll see that the magnitude of change is actually not that significant in the practical setting. Even if they had statistics, even if they could provide a study to support it, the actual practical applications of that change may not be meaningful. Next, following off that last one, be leery of products that are really excited about promoting research, is what I'm trying to get at. Research says. So what I mean by that is there's the terms, especially in this day and age, research and science carry a lot of weight. And so science says, research says. I've heard this. I saw this with a testosterone supplement recently, right? Science says this works. What does that mean? Science says that works. Whose science? Is it a person? Right? And that would be an appeal to authority anyway. That doesn't make any sense. So what that usually means to the manufacturer is they found a couple studies that's maybe even an in-house study that was done. They did science in their opinion, and this product now works according to them. What does works mean? You have to define all these parameters. And this is where we can look at marketing critically and say, okay, you're saying this works. How? Like, show me the proof. Show me. So we've lost the ability to go look at primary sources. Like, so this reminded me of the silk aminos years ago. Silk amino acids. For a while they were super hot. Like everybody'd say, oh, silk aminos are the wave of the future. Science says they are. Well, if you go look at the science, the actual there was one study in rats at the time that had some pretty flimsy support that silk aminos were more effective than taking aminos that weren't from this different type of chemical structure, different type of molecule, not a silk amino, basically. A traditional amino acid, if you will. So again, understand the sources, understand what we marketed to, that using research, the terms research and science doesn't really mean much anymore. You have to dig deeper. And it shouldn't have meant anything even 25 years ago, 30 years ago. I think people were just a little bit more trained for crap reading. I think social media has dulled us, including me, to some of these claims, and especially if what I'm going to talk about next, if an influencer or somebody famous is promoting a product. I almost immediately, and this is not a good reflex, but I almost immediately rebuff any a product that's pushed on me by some celebrity, because I know that's not fair. Likely that celebrity is not taking that product, nor does, if they do take it, and I'm talking usually in the athletics world, they're already an elite athlete. Why would that product make them any different at this point? Like if I have the greatest, this is not right. I'm just picking a sport. If I have the greatest football player in history, whoever that is, get on TV and tell me that I should take an amino acid concoction from this particular company because it's the best ever, and he takes it, and if the company's only been around 2 years, then he didn't take it before that, right? So he got there not taking this product. He was maybe taking other products, maybe taking things that are legal that actually work, but he wouldn't take this one, right? So don't let the influencer world, don't let all that world influence you. And we get, again, most of us say, I don't, nah. But it does affect us if we're not careful. We have to have our guard up in order to resist that pull from some authority figure to pull us into this, okay? Pull us into this nutritional web. Last thing I'll mention in this video is diets, okay? Different diets, all right? And I've kind of alluded to this already in this video, but I can't drive home this enough, is there's 3 macronutrients for a reason, right? There's 3 macronutrients for a reason. They all have their own superpower. And there's times to push one of them up and times to pull other ones down. And there's adjustments that can be made. But in terms of the long term, if you're a healthy person, like you're metabolically healthy, you don't have a clinically diagnosed disease, moving away from one macro because it's considered evil from some marketing plan is not a reason to move away from it. Okay, carbs are important. Our central nervous system likes carbs. Yes, it can run off ketone bodies, but that's not how the machine is supposed to run. It runs off carbs. Now, what has happened in this particular example, I'm using this example, is that we've categorized, we've kind of like leveled this idea of carbs. We flattened it and said, all carbs are sinful, right? But that's like saying, well, murder and stealing a candy bar are the exact same crime. Okay, well, you've leveled everything. There's no gradation. It's the same thing with something like carbs. To say fruit is as evil as consuming table sugar off the table, literally, like you just picked it up and stuck it in your mouth, like something like a sports or like a drink mix. Okay, I won't name any, but you can probably think of some large. If you're from my generation, you remember the large fruit punch bowl that burst through the wall. That guy, right? So you have those two different configurations of carbs, and even though they're both considered sugar, they're very different in their construction. They're very different in their health outcomes. So we've just leveled everything, we've flattened it all, and said all carbs. It's like saying all cars are bad. Well, there's some cars that are worse than others. Okay, Chevy is terrible, right? I know some Chevy lovers out there. Nobody watches my channel anyway, so it's okay, right? But I hope you see the point, though. Like, we can get in that danger of just leveling everything. And instead of stepping back and say, well, carbs aren't bad, we just need to consider the source. In fact, sugar at times, that fruit punch bowl breaking through the wall type of sugar person, marketing is effective at certain times. It's probably not a good idea to give to your kids like they did when I was in the 80s, right? And we would watch Saturday morning cartoons drinking it. But at least, right, consider when to use these different things. And that there's different gradations of complex carbohydrates, and there's times to use those. And some of these whole foods that these carbs come in are valuable for their other micronutrients and polyphenols and etc. So this is this is a rant on a three video rant on marketing, and hopefully working through some of these things and giving you some examples for you to think about. This one was on nutrition and some of the basic marketing. I could talk forever on these things, and I will stop here because I probably lost you anyway. But if you made it to the end, like this video if you liked it, and subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you in the next video.